So, from the video we talked about on Wednesday, for those of you who didn't see it, I'd suggest going and see it or watching it because, well, a quick overview is basically a chiropractor basically was arrested because she killed her patient. There's no two ways to kill it. And then the ultimate indignity, the General Chiropractic Council, or the GCC, basically allowed her to keep her license. She's still a fully licensed chiropractor, even though the coroner report clearly shows her result. The guy's death, who she killed, was a result of chiropractic injury. So let's not dilly down the bushes here. In the UK, particularly, if not the UK, but the rest of the world is suffering from these unfortunate tragedies. And this is partly because, well, A, there needs to be regulation, and we're talking real regulation. Now, let's go back to when these people weren't regulated. What they were doing essentially before was essentially unlicensed chiropractic, getting away with doing anything and all sorts, and the movement which chiropractors themselves started was that we need to be regulated, not to give them actual rules and protect the public body, the public at large, shall we say, but it was more to give them a status, and that is still the case today. I'm basically fully convinced after well, the recent ruling by the GCC that is all they are there to do, just to be a status symbol, and that for chiropractors go, oh look, we're regulated. And then that way, if problems do arise, like as we've just discussed, they can say, oh well, it didn't matter because my regulating body says I was okay, I was in the right. I might have killed my patient, but I can still keep on practicing. Considering if a doctor killed their patient, it would be very, very unlikely they would even be allowed to keep their license, let alone be able to continue practicing during while the investigation was ongoing, as she was allowed to do. So, what needs to be done? Well, the first thing that needs to be done is there needs to be real and proper regulation. The regulatory body is run by chiropractors, and as we've already said, these chiropractors aren't out for anything else other than their own self-personal glorification. So the GCC needs to be absolutely disbanded and replaced with an actual proper medical body, not involving anyone who is a chiropractor. This should be run by actual proper medical professionals, and if someone does come with improper conduct, I've been injured by a chiropractor, then this actual proper legal body can then go look at the facts and go, yes, you have, and then judge it accordingly under some actual proper regulation. So actually having a proper body, and a body that can actually function, is the first part of the job. You can't feed yourself if your hands are broken. So we now get to a situation where you've got your real regulatory body in place. What then? Well, there needs to be actual proper rules and regulations. The second one needs to be the actual age limits to chiropractic. Numerous numbers of times I've reported on this channel of chiropractors, doing, chiropractic adjustments on babies, and people, basically really young people, who should not be having these type of adjustments at that age when their bones are still growing and maturing. These people could be doing incredible harm to these people. In fact, they are doing incredible harm. In fact, I would label it as child abuse, because that's essentially what it is. So the lower age limit, as far as I'm concerned, should quite frankly be 25. At 25, your bones basically finally stop growing, and well, then a chiropractor can actually take over. However, there also needs to be an upper age limit as well as, quite frankly, a group of people that, well, chiropractors should just generally not touch. So you're talking the old I'd be saying anyone above 70, chiropractors can't touch. So they've basically limited the field, but quite frankly, in terms of safety reasons, chiropractors shouldn't be touching anyone in the age ranges that I've mentioned. So then, who else risk group should chiropractors not be touching? Well, those of increased heart risks. We've seen and covered on this channel time and time again that there is a heavy link between people with heart conditions or people that go to see the chiropractors that suddenly suffer strokes. So anyone with a heart condition, even mild to severe, should basically, again, just not be allowed to be touched by a chiropractor. And those would certainly be a start as to where you'd go down the road in terms of regulation. Now, many people may be going, well, hang on, you talked about how these guys are quacks and they can't, they shouldn't be allowed to practice. I agree. They 100% shouldn't be allowed to practice. In fact, that's something else I would add to the list of regulations. These guys should not be allowed to call themselves doctors. It is far too confusing to the public at large who don't understand the difference between someone who is a medical doctor and a doctor of chiropractic. Again, this honour, shall we say, they essentially stole and took when they were allowed to be regulated. And again, as we've already discussed in this video, that board is absolutely terrible when it comes to regulating these people. So handing out the title doctor to these people just basically shouldn't be allowed. So why am I suggesting regulations when in the past I have argued for outright banning these people? Well, don't get me wrong, I am still for outright banning these people. However, one thing at a time. Let's actually get them in some actual real form of real legal and competent regulations. Let's actually get these people measured. Let it go on the books. What happens when these people actually damage and injure people? Because that's something, once again, the General Chiropractic Council does not keep track of. They're supposed to, but they don't. So when you add all these things together, what you will eventually see, and a cause for actual public and real well-being, is an actual case for these people to actually be banned outright. Now, if chiropractors actually manage to, let's say, turn it around, once we've introduced these regulations and that you see injuries go down, deaths go down, all this stuff, and that chiropractors prove that they can be actual responsible and, not giving out false information as well. The list goes on when you think about these guys. But if they can actually prove it, well, nothing changes. You don't get any special treatment. These rules don't get suddenly relaxed. It stays as it is, and congratulations, that's now your new box you now have to live and work in. But quite frankly, it will be for the public good, because, as I said, I highly suspect, given if we impose these rules and regulations on chiropractors, it would very, very quickly come to light within about 5 to 6 years that these guys are just not worth keeping around for the public good. And then we can actually finally make a proper and real case for banning these quacks outright. So, what do you think to my list of regulations? I know there's a lot of other things that I've didn't cover in terms of regulations. So what do you think these guys should actually be covered in? Or, I'm very interested to know this, are you a chiropractor that stumbled upon this video? What do you think to your current regulations? What do you think to the current GCC? What do you think to my regulations? Do you think yourself that you need to be regulated more? Let me know what you think.